Welcome, welcome. Hi, ladies. June 2nd, 2014. June. Do you remember just a little, like yesterday? I was saying January. Not really yesterday. I guess 6 months ago. But gosh, does time go fast? June already. Anyway, welcome, welcome. Thanks for being here tonight. We're going to talk about summer capris. It's perfect. It's warming up around the country. We don't even want to wear pants, but to wear half pants is a good idea. So it's all a good thing. Just got back late last night from Raleigh, North Carolina. Wow, what a beautiful area. Pinehurst. Such a great area. The US Open is starting here next week. The US, that's golf, just in case you don't know. US Open men's, US Open women's. They expect 400,000 people to encroach upon their little town, and I feel so sorry for everyone there because it's a little town. But boy, did we have a good time. We really had a good time. Okay, so welcome, welcome. We're going to start with our questions and answers. And we'll do that just for a little while. And it's hard to kind of start right away with questions and answers. Sometimes you're just not even thinking yet. You're just not even awake. But we'll start with the questions and answers. All right, and they are, can I put 412 on the fold in front, or will that not work? 412? Is that a pattern? What's 412? Sorry. Oh, 412 is the Beverly's cowl neck, right? 412? Okay, now sorry, let me see the question again. Sorry. Okay, what was the question? Can I put 412 on the fold in front, or will that not work? That will not work. Now that I've figured it out, that will not work. Because in order to get gathers, you have to have spreading. And in order to spread, you get a curved line. And to get a curved line, you can't put that on a fold. So I can't think of any way to do that. If you come up with a way, let me know. But you can't have gathers and a fold. The two are kind of opposite polar spectrum, one from another. Yeah, if you're a designing genius out there and you figure that out, that's what the guys back here said. Let us know, because we're always after that genius, and I believe it's out there. We just haven't found it on that one. My mom wants a long sleeve pullover top made from our charmeuse. A long sleeve pullover top made from a charmeuse. Can you help suggest a pattern? Well, Mom, you know moms don't always get what they want. Um, a long sleeve charmeuse. I'm assuming you mean charmeuse silk. Charmeuse is actually a weave, not a full description, but I'm going to assume you want it to be silk. And in that assumption, I'm going to assume that it's a woven, and she wants a long sleeve pullover that's a woven. So you could do like Nancy's blouse, 450. You could just simply take the center front and close it in. The whole issue with being a woven is a woven usually has an opening because um, you have to have either stretch or extra ease to get it off and on. And if you don't have stretch or extra ease, then you have to make it a lot bigger than what it is to get it on. And then once you get it on, you have a lot of extra fabric. So, I mean, 450 is one example of just a pull-on blouse. You could make 400. There's 3 views on 400. You could make one of those views. Um, you know, there's numerous ones. Again, the problem really is if she wants a pull-on blouse, I'd get her to find out why she wants a pull-on. Like, there's a lot of cool openings today, button zippers. Why does she not want those things? Because what those things do is open it up to get it on, and then it makes it, closer to the body. But I mean, if she doesn't, she doesn't. It's a mom. We moms get whatever we want. But you might just kind of have more dialogue with her. Okay? Okay, for 4200 sheath dress, is the center front actually the grain line? Yes. Yes. I mean, literally on the pattern there's a grain line, but a grain line by definition is parallel to the center front. So the center front on 4200 is straight a grain, and you can just take that and move it to the fold, and you will be good to go. Sounds like a great dress coming up. All right, I have seen several fabrics recently that are sold by the panel. Is there a standard measurement for the size of the panels? If there is a standard, I'm not positive on this answer, but most panels I've ever seen in all my 56 years have been 1 yard. 1 yard is typically the size of the panel, and that's because that 1 yard is long enough to do a skirt, top, a separate piece, even long enough to do a dress. So typically it's 1 yard, but I don't know if there's such thing that's a standard, but they are about 1 yard. Okay. Peggy, when I try to do your dart adjustment on the back pants pattern, I end up having to add to the hem. Is this always the case when you do correction darts? No, you are doing something wrong, okay? Because if you're talking about my dart adjustment, which it's not really my dart adjustment, but that's not the point. The dart adjustment that you're doing is horizontal. And whenever you're doing that horizontal dart, that's depth. And you're taking out length in one place and not in another. That length never translates to the hem. It never translates to the hem. So something's wrong. Something you're doing is wrong. I'm not sure what, but you never, ever, ever, when you do a dart at the horizontal hip, and I will show it tonight, should you have to adjust the hem. It doesn't go all the way to the hem. If it did, it wouldn't bag beneath the rear end. We wouldn't have all those horrible baggy rear ends that we are trying to get rid of if it went all the way to the hem. Okay? All right. Love the top you have on, but how do you keep it from gapping at the bust since the buttons are above and below the bust? Well, it's not too tight. It fits. There's enough circumference. The only reason it gaps, thank you for liking the blouse, sorry, but the reason it would gap is because something would have to be pulling it at the bust. It's a knit, but you see there's extra ease in there, so it doesn't pull because there's enough fabric. Okay, does that make sense? Thank you. I love it too. I love it, love it, love it. This is that fabric, and I just love this blouse. How do you determine the width around the thigh when making walking shorts? I say this answer all the time, but I'm going to say it again because it's what I would do. I would go to your closet and find out some things you wear and start measuring thigh circumferences. Measure every pair of pants you wear in your closet. Let's say there's 10 of them. Measure all 10 pairs and see what the range is from smallest to largest, and then think, do I get more mobility out of one than another? So it's all styling, in other words. There's not a pattern making rule for it, and so in fact, got that? There you go. It does not make a difference. So you get to do whatever you want. All right, could you discuss pocket placement in jeans, especially how far from the middle seam? Are the pockets spaced evenly from the middle seam or spaced evenly from the double stitching? Oh, it should be from the seam, not from the stitching. The seam is always, the seam's in the middle. The stitching is to usually the right. I think it's the right of the stitching, or the right of the seam. But the pocket should be placed evenly from the seam, not from the stitching. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Okay, so the pocket should be placed evenly from the actual stitching seam, and the top stitching should be ignored as far as measuring distance of pocket placement. Good question, though. When you make buttonholes but not open them, you can make buttonholes but not open them and sew a button on top of them, Velcro underside. Is that just a statement? I'm not sure what I'm doing here. We're working on this one. Oh, that's okay. Okay, all right, good. We're good on questions. I guess somebody's talking to somebody else probably. Okay, so I've got a few questions that came in and I want to go over them and just read them here for a minute, and then we'll take any more that come in. This was an idea that somebody wanted to give me for a webcast, and it's not that hard, so I'm not going to make a webcast out of it, but I do think it's important. She becomes a little confused when she goes through and does LCD. she doesn't know which order to make the changes. Once she goes to her tissue or her pattern or her muslin or whatever she's doing, you should be making those changes LCD. Same way you're doing the draping, doing the changes the same way. So once you go to your tissue and start to make those changes, LCD. LCD. That's the best way to do them in. And then the other question is, does she need to make a muslin for both a knit and woven? Absolutely. That's like, yes, you do. I mean, my analogy is, could I just make a t-shirt and then make a blouse out of it? No, there's too much difference. So we're going to learn tonight, you need more than one pant muslin. You need a knit and you need a woven. And when you have those two, then you'll pretty much be good to go. Just like you need a blouse and you need a t-shirt and you need a jacket. You wouldn't, just because they're all go on the top, you wouldn't use one for all three of those. For some reason, I don't know why, pants get much less respect than what tops do. We seem to understand that tops have to have parts, and the bust and the neck and the waist and all those parts are separate. But when it comes to pants, we kind of just all throw it in one barrel, and we think any way we make changes is good to go. Alright, so that's that one. Question for Capri webcast: how do you determine how far below the knee is best for the individual? We will cover that. We're going to talk about proportions tonight. I prefer my pants with a facing rather than a waistband. I've noted your previous comments regarding interfacings, but would you still fuse this type of facing? You don't fuse any pattern piece based on the fact of it's a pattern piece. You fuse based on the fabric. Okay, so just because it's a piece of a pattern shouldn't give you reason to fuse. You fuse because you're trying to do one of three things to the fabric. You're either trying to change the hand of the fabric, you're either trying to stabilize the fabric because it's loosely woven, or because you're trying to retard wrinkling. Those are the three reasons to fuse, not because it's a small piece, not because it's a bias, and none of those reasons are reasons why you fuse. So separate out patterns from fabric. You fuse for fabric reasons, not for pattern reasons. Okay? Hopefully that makes a clear separation. And then she says also, apart from moving the zip to the rear seam, are there any changes I should be making? You don't have to move the zipper to the rear seam. I'm going to show you tonight. You can do you can do a contoured waistband with a center front, with a fly front in the front. Okay. I love this email. Dear Peggy, I am 4'11" with most of my height in my legs. I also have scoliosis and my left hip rides about 1 inch higher than the other. I also have a 32 triple D bra, so text I also You guys, it's all going to look good. You know what? All of these problems, they're not problems. I just really like teaching because we make too big a deal out of our issues. We don't have that many issues, and our issues can be resolved the same exact way. So, if you're 4'11", you're going to have to pay attention to the rules, and we're going to talk about some of those rules tonight. But it's not any harder or it's not any different to fit you than it is anybody else. We use L, C, D. I guess it's actually D, okay? So L, C, D is what we're going to do. And it's not any harder than that. And I think, I've said this many times before, but I'm going to say it again. We make it hard. We have been told it's hard. Yada yada. You guys know the rest of this. Get out of your head that it's hard. Get out of your head that you can't do this. You can do this. Just focus. We're going to have fun with capris tonight, and we can do this. And yesterday, after I left Raleigh, everybody is saying, wow, I can do this. And of course you can do this. And I say it all the time. If I can do it, so can you. All right. Questions? Wrap up? We're good. Okay, so we're going to start in with our lesson tonight. And we're going to start in with draping. And tonight, a lot of times I say, if you guys can kind of quiet down and not chit-chat, but I do want you to ask questions during the webcast so that if I'm missing something or not saying it appropriately or it needs clarification, you can let me know. All right, whether it does or not. Okay, so we have a little sign. It says it makes a difference or does not make a difference. And this sign came from the ladies in Raleigh because they were very clear to tell me that I have the same mannerisms and that they start to laugh at my mannerisms. And that's a real drag because that just happens. You know, there's not much I can do about that except make a joke out of them, which is what I'm going to do here tonight. Many times I say it doesn't make a difference. Doesn't make a difference. They even wiggled their head just like me and imitated me. It doesn't make a difference until everybody was laughing on the floor. So I guess I say that a lot. I'm not going to go back and make clips of how many times I've said that because as I thought about it on the plane home, I do say that a lot. Doesn't make a difference. So instead of saying it, I'm not going to say it anymore. I'm just going to hold up the sign. It does not make a difference. It makes a difference. This is going to be, I'm not going to say it anymore. So you can't catch me in my little bloopers. I'm just going to hold up the sign. Got that? All right. Thanks, Raleigh ladies. Really stroke my self-esteem. Okay, so capris are terrific. Our pattern of the month, it's up online. The code is on Facebook. Pattern number 3009. It's called Capri Pant. Very creative name, Capri Pant. You can tell we're desperate for a name on that one. Okay, so for any of you who are Pattern of the Month Club members, be sure and get to us by Wednesday. By Wednesday, if you want to change. Now, for those of you who are not Pattern of the Month Clubbers, I just forgot to mention this, that we are having a 6-month join-in. Now, that 6 month is going on now, but the 6 months doesn't start until July. So don't think that that includes this. If you've ordered the Pattern of the Month half, we called it 1/2 Pattern of the Month Club, it doesn't start until July. So if you want the Capri, order that separate and then your July pattern will kick in. Okay, so obviously the first thing we've got to do, to me, in any pattern is make a muslin, especially pants, and drape. So I want to explain just a little bit about this pant because I really like it. I have it on. Made it all over the place. Look at this was Barbara. She suggested we start hanging things so that you can see them. I love this idea. So we're going to be hanging stuff all over the place from now on in. And I hope by next time we're going to get this sewing, this whole thing. We're redoing the whole room. It's time to redo the room. But we've got some really good ideas that will really lend themselves to improving our webcast. So hopefully by next time we'll have them. If we don't have them by next time, we will have them by the next time. All right, so I want you to understand this pattern. This is my pants pattern. This is just my regular pants pattern. When you go to make a contoured waistband, which is what 3009 has, just so you understand all these definitions, a contoured waistband is a shaped band. So actually what happens is you draw a line as wide as you want that waistband to be, and I think in this case it's like 2 inches wide. You draw a line 2 inches down, you cut it apart, you add seam allowance and sew it back together. So it doesn't change the shape of the hip, it doesn't change the fit at all. The reason most of the time when I go to drape a pant that I drape the whole entire up to the waist is so that I can make it shorter, and as I make it shorter and come back off the waist, automatically the shape of my hip is built into that pattern. If you only draped it up to here and you wanted to go higher, then you wouldn't have it, and you wouldn't know the shaping. So you're always better off to do 3200, drape to the top, and then make your changes. So if I have darts, for instance in the back, then when I'm doing my contoured waistband, I would close up those darts, close them up, and then go ahead and draw my 2 inches. Cut apart, add seam allowance, sew back together. Because contoured waistbands do not have darts in them. So then a lot of times right below the band there are a couple little lines, and that's the balance of those darts is what that is. So that is where the contoured waistband comes from. It is a shaped, it's like a facing, but it's really just the top of the pant, and it is shaped because it follows our body and darts are built into it. And so it's really important when you go to do a muslin that when you make the muslin you put that onto the pant. You can't really fit the pant without it. So some of you have come to workshops, and the workshops, there's instruction for making up pants, and on there it says don't attach the waistband. So you look at that and you read that and you say, okay, I won't, I'm making 3009, I won't attach the waistband. It doesn't apply to that pattern. It only applies to 3200 or to something that just has a straight band, or to the jean. It applies to that, but it doesn't apply anytime there's a shaped contoured waistband. It has to be added to the pant before you go to drape it. Okay, just want to make that absolutely clear. Okay, so I have added it to the pant, I've made up a muslin, and here's my Sally. This is, I shouldn't say Sally, it's not Sally, that's Sally's pants. This is my Capri. And as a general habit, now I measured her hips, and we did kind of go talk a lot about this over the weekend when we were in North Carolina, because a lot of very specific questions arise, and sometimes I think they're good and sometimes I think you're just thinking too hard. Don't make it that complex. The fabric, whenever we're sewing, fabric is our variable. We know that. Fabric is our variable. Pattern is tissue. It's always the same. It's always repeatable, but our variable is our fabric. So I have to look at my fabric to determine what size I'm going to make. Is my fabric got stretch in it? Then I maybe will make smaller than my hip. My fabric has no stretch to it, then I will make at least my hip size. Or we've talked a lot about wrapping the tape measure around your hip, sitting down, the tape measure will spread, and I'll make that size. So I've got several instances here. I've got both stretch and non-stretch, and we'll go over that here in a little bit once we drape this. Okay, so in this case, when I made this up, I specifically wanted it for a stretch. So I can't drape a non-stretch and then use stretch fabric. Did y'all hear that? Okay. I can't drape a non-stretch and then expect to use stretch fabrics. I have to drape a stretch fabric. Now, probably in your stash that you didn't get rid of, there's some stretch fabric in there, so find it, and you want the same amount of stretch that what's in our stretch fabrics today. Because there's going to be changes between the stretch and the non-stretch. So I decided here first I'm going to do a stretch, so I only measured the size of her hips, and I'm draping the size of her hips. I didn't add any extra ease because the fabric itself is going to do the easing. So I'm going to move her forward just a little bit so that we can get her front and center. You'll be very proud of me. I did not make it black so you could see. Duh. Alright. For some reason, I have a tendency to always start in the back. It doesn't make a difference. I told you I wasn't going to say that. See, I can't help but saying that. Alright. You're going to leave the opening in the front. That just has a 3/8 inch seam allowance. The fly sews to a 3/8, so there's no changes I made. I just didn't sew the fly in there. And because I'm doing this by myself, and I can pin that close. And just on your waistband, mark where that center front is so I can easily see that that's all accurate. I don't want to do any changes at the front. Okay? Okay, so I'm going to come to the back first, because there are changes that I will see in the back that lend themselves and carry forward to the front, and I should see them in the back first. Alright, so first thing you should probably always do is look for the hip line to see if the hip line needs a dart. And most of the time, because we're women and we gain weight in our rear end, it's pretty darn hard to get the pattern exactly like it should be in the rear end. So sometimes I've slashed it and opened it, sometimes I've closed it, the majority of times I've closed it. Once in a while I do nothing to it. But most of the time you should at least pay attention to it and look to see if there's any extra fabric below. See here, you see all this extra, and you see this dart here is pulling it all up. So you see how nice that actually is hanging. This dart would not change the hem that was asked earlier. No, 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 no. It does not. It simply tapers all the way to nothing at the side seam. It lays flat. So what it does is I'm taking away fabric back here. I'm taking away nothing actually over here at the side. Easy enough? And at the hip line, even though you guys don't, you should really do me a favor, do yourself a favor. If you will just do it there, even if you don't think it needs it, just do it. Just reach behind, pinch up an inch, and see if it's better. Because I think the problem is most of us don't realize what it looks like when it's too long. And so we don't think that's the answer, but I'm going to tell you it is. So if you'll just reach back there, pinch it up, fix it, and then you're good to go. All right? All right, and for tonight I'm just going to do 1/2. I usually only do 1/2 anyway when I'm draping, simply because there's not a right and wrong on that. But most of the time I only use one, because if I do both halves and I don't do them exactly right, and I don't know of anybody who has one butt cheek bigger than another, and this isn't really about that anyway. It's really waist versus rear end versus leg. So even if they were asymmetric, it wouldn't make that big a difference. Okay, so I think that's about as good as it gets. I'm not going to make any other changes. I am going to look up at this contoured waistband, and for many of you, you're not shaped exactly like the waistband, and you'll have these gaps, or these, whatever you want to call them. Gaps, I think that's probably a pretty good name for them. I don't want to take out center back seam. That's your go-to place, and you guys all go there. Don't go there. Center back is already biased, so I don't want to make it more biased. We know bias is unstable. Don't do that. All I want to do is change the shape of the waistband. So I'm going to come on equal sides of center back, and I'm going to put little darts. And these little darts will be in the waistband. They will not be in the final product. And I think I've done this enough to where you all know this will not be in the final pant either. This is in the pattern, but it's not in the final pant. So in your fashion fabric at the end, you won't have this, right? Everybody's okay with that? All right, so this dart here, it starts at the top of the band and ends at the bottom of the band. There's a pivot point right at the bottom of the band, so you actually don't have this in your final product either, which is why we make a muslin, because we can tweak all this stuff and really make it so much better so that our final pant will be gorgeous, and yet it'll all be built into the shaping of the pant. Look at the difference there. I don't need to take it out of center back. Don't take it out of center back. The worst place you can do. Also, when you take too much out of center back, it starts to dip at center back. Y'all know what happens when you do that because you've done it there before. Okay, that can't get any better. Okay, when you did the dart across the back hip line, it looked as though the pant had a wedgie. Do you adjust for a lowered butt after taking this wedge? No. No. She doesn't have a wedgie. She told me she doesn't. She said, Peggy, there, no, never mind. Okay, that's getting too weird. All right, if she had a wedgie, then the whole pant should come down. That's a lower crotch depth. The whole entire pant should come down if it's too short. And if you have a wedgie after doing this, then it was too short in the first place. So remember, this crotch length is not what makes the pant too short. The pant being too short is depth. Crotch depth. Okay? To get rid of a wedgie, do you slice and insert fabric to make the crotch length longer? No. No. Whoops. No. Can you feel me reaching through the camera and choking your throat? No. No, you do not, because this is crotch length and the wedgie is caused by crotch depth. Two different things. Okay? Is there any time a situation where you would have to spread a horizontal dart in the butt area? Yes. Yes, we do it all the time. I did it 2 days ago to Pepper. Anyway, in Raleigh. Yes. If the rear end is big enough, and watch what happens, this is exactly what happens. This starts to go down to a V at center back, and there's like little angular lines, and they all point to the biggest part of the rear end. And when that happens, you've got to cut at the hip line, same place as that dart is. You'll pull this up until it comes in straight across the back, and you'll fill in with fabric under there, and it's a dart. So your symptoms that you want to watch for are not wedgie. Wedgie or no wedgie has nothing to do with this alteration here. Wedgie is caused by crotch depth. This is either going to pick up fabric or you're going to slash it to give additional length at center back, but nowhere else. Okay, it's only to give additional length at center back. Are we good there? What about the wrinkles on the side of the pant? Well, we're not done yet. Hang on. You're supposed to go LCD with me. You're jumping ahead now. Hold still. Okay. Are we okay with that? Okay. So we're going to turn her around and go to the front. And you guys, you know, that's a perfect example. You do this at home too. You don't do one thing at a time. You kind of go to the wrinkles. If you go L, C, and D, you will solve all the wrinkles in the process of doing LCD. So I think that's a really good point, because when I'm draping, and I'm especially at these one days when y'all who tend those one days have not draped a lot, when I'm draping and I ask you all, okay, what's wrong with this? You all go right to the wrinkles. Even though I've taught you LCD over and over and over, you still go right to those wrinkles first, and you're going to have to bridle yourself from doing that. Okay. So if there was a wedgie, how do you increase the crotch depth? You add to the top of the pant. You drop the pant down. Okay? You can either do it by opening up the circumference and wearing the pant lower, or you can add to the top of the pant underneath a contoured waistband. But in all cases, the pant can only go up or down, and if it's too short, then you don't have enough length for it. That's a length issue, and it's all the way around. It's all the same. Make sure everybody understands this, because I hate to go on or get emails. Everybody's okay? Okay. Yeah, no, I appreciate you asking at the time, because it's definitely a topic that gets confused. Once you get it straight, you'll never confuse it again, but, it's kind of confusing in the beginning. Okay, so we got all kinds of wrinkles here, right? L is nothing wrong. Where the crotch is nothing wrong. Circumference, again, the circumference is fine. The depth, and notice we have wrinkles here and not here. We got all kinds of problems. So I'm going to go right to those wrinkles, and I want them to come out at the curve of the crotch in the front. Center front sews to itself. That is the appropriate place to take them away. Now, if you're only doing half of the pant, then what you want to do is make sure it's the same half that you did on the back. There's been many times where I've draped, and I've draped one side here and one side over there. That no worky. You got to do the same side that you want to do. So I'm going to take this, I guess I should turn it forward to you, and I'm literally just going to run it out. Run it out to 0, and you'll see that what it will do is take away a lot of these wrinkles that you guys were nervous about. How did I know to start at this point? I know patterns, and there's a rule in patterns that when the pattern is being made, this is where it's added or taken away. So, and if you go into anatomy, not that this is an anatomy class, but there's no bone there, so there's no place for, there's actually no muscle there either. There's no place for fat to pack on. So the body packs on fat and muscle all in through here, but there's nothing here, and so there's a little hollow right below our tummies, and so that's where the fabric ends up needing to be taken away. And it sews to itself, so it's a very simple place to take away. Very effective, very easy to do. Okay. Contoured waistband. Okay, now when making a contoured waist, do you still stitch the dart in the pant below the contoured waistband even though it's tiny? No. I mean, now there's a difference in the front and in the back. If you're talking about the front, no. On your contoured waistband, if there's a little bit of a dart below in the front, then you take that little bit out for the side and the little center front. You take one out this way and one out this way. So you're just going to alter that circumference a little tiny bit. In the back, you're going to have, because darts are like 7 inches long in the back, 8 inches long, and the contoured waistband's only 2 inches long, you're going to have darts in the back of that contoured waistband. Here's the pattern. So you're still going to have a good long dart even though the contoured waistband is taken out. Can you see that? Yeah, there's the dart. You can so you're still, the contoured waistband's only 2 inches. So even in the front a lot of times you'll still have a dart below that band. It depends on how low the pant is on the body. It depends on the styling of the pant. Okay. So how are we doing with our little wrinkles getting taken away? But you have to understand that this in no way would ever affect the hem. We kind of had that question a little bit earlier. Don't even go, it never is going to affect the hem. So something's being done majorly wrong if it's even touching the hem, if it's even making a difference or anything else. Okay, look how nice that looks. Okay. When standing, pants fit okay, but when I sit, the back waist pulls down and my front tummy is baggy. That's totally normal. Now, you can control how much that happens, but let me just kind of explain that. When I go to sit down, the front of my body gets shorter, the back of my body gets longer. I'm bending forward as I go to sit. So the front of my body gets shorter, the back of my body gets longer. As I'm sitting, the pant should come up as my body gets longer, and as I sit, the crotch of the pant should hit the crotch of my body. And ideally, it hits right when I sit. If it hits prior to that, then that poor pant has no option except to pull down because my body's getting longer and the pants can't get longer just like that. So the pant pulls down. So when you go to sit, if the back is pulling down excessively, it's because the pant is too close to your body when you're standing. And you may like that, you may keep that, but a side effect of having that is when you go to sit, it's going to pull down. It doesn't have any other option. Okay? If it is getting baggy in the front, it could be that you need to do a little of this while you're standing. While you're standing, you can take out a little bit of this and you'll never know it's gone. You can't take out too much, but if it's on the border where you've really got a little bit too much anyway, it'll feel really baggy when you go to sit. So you might just do this and do it maybe just like a 1/4 inch and see if that doesn't help minimize it. But keep in mind, when you go to sit, the body's getting shorter because it's bending forward. You are going to have extra fabric, period. That's completely normal. Okay? When should you use a contoured waistband? That would be style. It's your choice. There's no should. You never have to use one. I can tell you they're flattering because the lower that pant goes on your body, within reason, the taller you look. And the taller you look, the thinner you look. You can't look taller without looking thinner. And there isn't a day when I wake up and say, I just want to look shorter and fatter today. It just doesn't happen. I always want to look taller and thinner. So you use a contoured waistband when, you want a taller, thinner look. Okay, but it's totally style. It's your choice. Okay, are we okay with draping? Okay, that's it. I don't care how tall or short or wide or whatever you are. I have fit lots of different figures out there, and I do the same thing over and over and over. L, C, D. Okay. We're going to put her away because I think that's as hard as it gets. Okay, so now what I want to do is talk about fabrics. So what I did is I draped myself, and I draped myself in a yellow sloper. Not that it was yellow, but it was stretch. And so once I draped it, I want to talk about the order that you undo it. Okay? You guys know how to do it. You've got instructions on the website, how to do it, all that kind of stuff. Now you're going to undo it. So you've draped it, you've sewn the changes, you've put them back on, you're delighted with the way it looks, you can't wait to make your pants. And number one thing you do is reduce your seam allowances. A lot of times in the instructions we say to add extra, and that's so that you'll have extra and that you won't have to make another one. You want to have some extra in case you need it. But once you've draped it and you found out you don't need it, then you're going to trim all those seam allowances down to 3/8. And that would be your outseam, your inseam, your waist, your crotch, everything comes down to 3/8. All right? Then you are going to stitch in any horizontal darts you had. I'm going to stitch those in permanently. Any little horizontal darts you had that made that pant look a little better, you're going to stitch that in. I am going to take out the vertical darts. Vertical darts are stitched on the sewing machine, so I wouldn't leave those in. I'm going to take those away, and then I take the pant apart, and it should lay flat. Then I'm going to draw on my grain line. My grain line goes from the bottom of the dart, the center dart. If you have two darts, one's a center dart and one's called a side dart. So I'm going to drape that dart. I'm going to draw that grain line in from the bottom of the dart to the center of the hem. Okay, there's my grain line. Draw it in both the front, draw it in the back. That's my pattern. I'm ready to go. I don't want to transfer it anymore. You all, just every time I'm in a class, someone says to me, well, now do I transfer it? No, you don't transfer it. This is it. That's so unlikely to make a mistake if I stop right here, and I'm so likely to make a mistake if I just keep transferring. So stop. The muslin becomes your tissue, and you lay it out on fabric and you go to town. Okay? All right. So I used my muslin. The first thing I did is I wanted a denim pair of capris. I love jeans. Jeans are so hot, especially here in Dallas, Texas. They're so hot for the summer. So I wanted to make a pair of denim capris because I really like denim. So I cut off what I needed. I threw it in the washing machine, washed it with Coca-Cola, threw it in the dryer, and it came out this wonderfully soft denim. I just absolutely love it. Denim is not a stretch fabric. In this case, this is not a stretch denim, but denim stretches. Just by the nature of it being cotton and by the nature of the weave, denim has some stretch to it. So remember in the beginning when I talked about what size do I choose, I should consider whether it's a linen or whether it's a denim, or does the fabric have some natural stretch that it will stretch out. So I chose my pattern to be exactly at my hip size. No ease, because I decided the denim would kind of give me that ease, and I went through and I made them up, and here they are. I made them just like the pattern. So it's got a pocket, it's got everything exactly like the pattern. This is a contoured waistband, so it's lower than my waist. It's got a little fly front, and there you have it. And I love them, absolutely love them. I did put a little crease in the front because on capris has a tendency to make us look thinner, by the way, just because it gives a little vertical line. But you don't need to. I just decided on these I wanted to. Okay, then I wanted to make a stretch pair. And for my stretch pair, we've got this fabric that I've been drooling to make. This is a cotton pontoroma. You talk about nice. Boy, was this fun to sew with. This is just amazing. It's a black. You can see it online. We took a real close-up picture of it. It's got like a little caviar texture to it. And that's kind of what they call leather when it has this little textured effect. It's like a mesh, but they call it caviar. And it's just a real small pebbly surface all through it. It's just really beautiful. So because it stretches, I wanted to make a pair that was a stretch. So the fact that I used a stretch muslin to make this pair was perfect. Love this pair. Oh my gosh, you talk about comfortable. They're just so comfortable. Now what I did on these is I measured the bottom of a pair of capris I wore, and it was 16 inches, so I had to slim it in just a little bit. And when I did that, slim in both sides of the grain and then just taper up to the thigh. Okay, slim both sides of the grain I say that kind of quickly, and I'm just going to show you kind of quickly because I actually changed my muslin because I really like that 16. So what I did is once I'd drawn the grain in, I measured the bottom. I had 8 inches seam allowance, 8 inches seam allowance. So I had 8 inches total plus seam allowance in the front, 8 inches total seam allowance in the back. And then whatever else was extra, I just literally slimmed it up to nothing, slimmed it up to nothing without changing the thigh. The thigh and everything else was just perfect. All right, so that now I have two great pairs of capris. One's a denim, which will last me all summer long, and then one's a knit black, and it's got just a little bit of texture, which is perfect for what I wanted. Yes, question about the denim pants. Sorry, on the denim, did you sew a front crease or just press it? I just pressed it, but you could sew it. All right. Okay, so then I wanted to make yoga pants because remember capris, I mean you can use this pattern. It has the contoured waistband, but you can also use any shortening of any pant pattern becomes capri. So don't forget your leggings because legging capris to me in the summertime are fabulous. They're so cute. You can do them white, different colors. They're adorable. You can do your little longer fitted top with them and they're awesome. So the other thing I wanted to do was I wanted to take my yoga pant and I wanted to make capris out of them. So I did that. Then I put a little black band on the bottom. This is a new fabric that we've got online. Love this. Just really like this. We called it the wild leopard. What do we call it? I don't remember. Anyway, wild leopard something. We were all laughing in the office. But I just love it. And anytime you have a print like this, because prints are so popular for the bottoms for summer, spring, do a just do a little solid top. This was the, I don't know if they can see this high, but anyway, this was the little black shell that we did a couple times ago, just with a white. So it's a great little easy travel knit whatever piece that goes really nicely together. Okay. Um, a rayon, the legging capri, the rayon. Your rayon is fabulous for it. The rayon knits we have, all those colors, fabulous for leggings. I've done so many, especially for summertime, because they're really light. They're really nice. And remember, the top doesn't show anyway. You've got a top that usually comes over your leggings, so it really works well. Are we okay with that? Okay. So I've got a whole bunch more, and we're not going to get it all in. So I'm sitting here trying to decide what else we're going to do. And I think I'm going to jump to proportions, I think is what I'm going to do, because there's been a lot of talk, and I think it's a really important principle to understand how long to make these capris. As long as we're making them, in my mind, we might as well make them correctly. So many of them that we buy in the store, we have, obviously we have to buy them how they are, and sometimes they're hard to shorten or lengthen or whatever. So I really want to talk about proportions. So I've got some little charts that I prepared, and we're going to take a look at these charts. This is for the length of the capris. All right? Proportions. Now, all of these proportions, a lot of you guys tell me when you watch webcasts, you furiously take notes because, you want to get it all in. A lot of you have this book, Dress to Kill. It's all in here. There's a chapter on proportions. It's all in there. So if you have that book, stop taking notes. Just read the chapter on proportion. All right, so this is what we did. These are all of us. We're all this tall. See, all these people are the same height. The body is very well proportioned, and anytime I go to dress the body, that's kind of when I screw up, because if I don't know the rules of proportions and I go to dress the body, I don't know how long should this top be, how long should my capri be, and a lot of times you just cover something up that you don't like a bruise or a vein or something like that, and when we're dressing the body, the whole entire body should be taken into consideration, but only the dress part of the body is what we're going to worry about in this particular case, and the dress part of the body goes from the shoulder to the knee. Okay, so from the shoulder to the knee, that's what I'm going to measure. And it's a linear measurement. Don't measure depth, don't go over the bust, just go linear from the side of the body to the bottom of the knee. I'm 5'8", I'm 40 inches. If you're 5'2", you're probably 35 inches. 36 inches I think it is. If you're 5'4", you're 38 inches. So you're going to take those numbers and you're going to divide that either halves, thirds, fourths, or fifths. So as you look at all these lines, what you see is I get options as to how long my top is going to be, because as you look across these charts, my top is shorter here, my top is longer here, my top is longer here. So all I want to make sure is that I'm at one of these proportions. And the coolest thing is if you are 5'6", you probably stay that height for a lot of years. So all the clothes you make, if they're proportioned to you, then I can mix and match them and my wardrobe becomes much more user-friendly. And I can take this skirt and put it with this top. It might change what proportion I'm using, but it's very usable. Okay, so let's start with halves for a minute. This doesn't apply to capris yet. I'm going to pull it into capris here in a minute. If I had a pair of pants and a shirt, and I'd measure from shoulder to knee, I'm going to use my 40, and I wanted to make a one-to-one look, then I could, half of that would be 20, my top would be 20 inches long. From the shoulder to my top would be 20 inches. Okay? I could take away the pants, I could put a skirt, I could yada yada, you get it. Okay, so those are halves. The whole reason we have fourths is because it increases how many things I can wear and gives me more lengths. You notice the fourth has got the halves included, so we could probably leave out the halves, but it's important that you understand that a one-to-one look is really popular. If I were to measure a picture in a catalog and that little woman was 5 inches tall from her shoulder to her knee, then I could make everything on her 8 times bigger, because I'm 40 and she's 5, and I would know exactly, I could take that outfit and proportion it exactly the same on me. And I've done it all the time, and you can do it all the time. Do not copy pattern books, because pattern books are horribly out of proportion. But fashion, in the magazines, in Vogue and all those magazines you look at, you know, W magazine, all those are very much in proportion to the models, so those are really good to measure. Okay, that's why they look so good. Thank you. It is a very big reason why they look good, and to me, as long as we're sewing, we ought to be paying attention to this, especially if you're 5'2". Okay, because things just overwhelm you very easily, and you know you start to look short and wide, and you don't want to do that. When we're dealing with capris, we deal with fifths. Okay, so the shoulder to the knee, let's go back to the 40. I'm going to divide by 5 parts, which gives me 8. 2 of those parts would be 16. 2/8 are 16. That's my waist. Your elbow goes at your waist. So in many times, if you follow your body parts will actually tell you where to put things, except with capris, because capri should either be a 1 to 1.5, which is going to be knee length, that's your body part, or 1 to 2, and that's going to go halfway between your knee and your ankle. The longer the capri is, the shorter you will look. You're always better off to go 1 to 1.5 over 1 to 2. But if you just can't wear them at the knee, or you just for whatever reason think that's horrible, go 1 to 2. And that, don't go longer and don't go shorter, go 1 to 2, and that will really make you look your best. Okay? So don't want to get too much, you know, on that, but that'll give you a great base, and you'll be able to kind of understand that capri should either be 1 to 1.5, which is right at your knee, and top of the knee is better than bottom of the knee. But I got it, I've heard it all. You don't like your knee, you don't like the way they look, but nobody comes in looking at your knees, okay? Everybody's looking down, so usually if it's above your knee, your knee's covered anyway. Just an FYI. All right, are we okay with that? We did good. Great chart making, guys. Okay, that was all done behind the scenes. So very good. Okay, would adding more height to the back of the waistband help with the back of the pant pulling down when you sit, nearly exposing too much? If your neckline is too low, would it help to add to the bust? No. Okay? That's a bad analogy. That's a really bad analogy. The answer is no. The answer is no, because it's not the problem. You can't add you know, in patterns, you have to know where the problem is and add to fix the problem. You can't add somewhere else and expect it to work. So no, it would not. Besides, if you added there, then when you were standing, where would that go? Where would that extra go? It'd all be stuffed up in your back. So I promise you guys, I'm going to always tell you the easiest, best way to fix something. And I promise you, if there was a shorter, faster way, I would tell you. I really would. Promise. That's a promise. Okay. So it makes a difference where you add. All right. I want to show you quickly. We don't have a lot of time, but I'm going to show you this fly front because it is in the directions, but there's just one little change I want to show you, and you'll see that it's really simple. So we're going to do some camera action here, if you don't mind, and we're going to show right down on here. I did different colors, so you can see you've got a wider piece, you've got a narrower piece, and then you've got your pant front. The pant front you just stitch up to where the curve stops, and you can see you're in the straight of the pant. So when you go to do a fly, you only need a 3/8 seam allowance, and there you have it. That's what the pant's going to look like when you've sewn them together. Okay, then I'm going to take the wider of the two pieces. I'm going to fold it in half, and on the raw edge I'm going to place the zipper on top and stitch it together. Notice I'm only stitching on one side of the tape, the other side is free. The fold is here. This is pictured very well in your directions. You just don't need, that's not an issue. That's not a problem. Nobody has a problem with that. Okay, the next step is I turn the pant back, the seam allowance, and I stitch it on top of where I've already stitched. Do not try to get close to the zipper. You don't need to try to get close to the zipper. Just put them together. I stitched an orange thread so that you could see the difference. This is in Tips and Techniques too, but we've done it online. I mean, we've done it before. Notice the other fabric was stitched right sides together and then turned to the inside of the pant, and there you have it. And if you notice at this step, again, the zipper is attached to this side. It's not attached to this other side. I had a lady just in Raleigh this weekend, and she said to me she didn't want to do a fly front because it was too bulky. This is not too bulky. You guys, this is an awesome method. Okay, so here I am, and what I've done is I've put 2 pins here at the front, and your directions have this piece folding back and this zipper assembly folding back, and you sew just these 2 pieces together. The only change I want to make for you is it's so much easier if you just flip this over and stitch from where you can actually see the zipper tape. It was too hard in the directions for us to actually, not too hard, you weren't understanding it when we would put that method out, and people just couldn't understand flipping it over. But when it was like this, and we just took away the front and then we took away the back, which is all illustrated, and you connect those two, it's just real simple if you flip it over and see where the tape is and then stitch the tape. And what you're doing is, because this side of the zipper is attached to this side and this side of the zipper needs to be attached to this side, that's what you're doing it. You're attaching it to that side of the pant. And then the last step is you move the zipper assembly out of the way and you stitch through that piece and the front of the pant. You're only stitching through 2 layers, and you actually do the zipper assembly. If you don't move this out of the way, then you'll stitch through it. And if you stitch through it, you can't get your pants on. And everybody does that once, so if you do it, don't feel bad. It's the worst thing in the world to stitch through your pants and look at it and see this beautiful fly and not be able to get your pants open. Most of us have one of these little packages. It has a template for a fly on the back. If I just gingerly kind of open this up, and it's already creased, there's my fly template right there. So I can take it like that, and I can go ahead and just kind of tear it apart. It's already the right width, and I can just lay this down as low as I want it to be, and I can use that as my template to stitch that fly if I want to. So that comes right from my directions. It's just on the back, and you can use it to stitch that fly. Okay, we're past time, but I wanted to show you that. And we've got a trivia question, and we're going to ask that. Next week we're going to be talking about pattern rules you need to know. Even if you never want to make patterns, There's pattern rules you just need to know. So that's what we're going to spend next time talking on. And I promise to make it fun. I love patterns. So hopefully we won't make it drill and boring. And hopefully you'll be here. But you need to know these, you guys. I keep seeing them over and over and over. And you don't know when it's okay and when it's not okay because you don't know the rules. So we'll be using a lot of this stuff here. All right, our trivia question is, it's in the chat box. So which silhouette pattern's personality is celebrating their birthday tomorrow, June 3rd? Which silhouette pattern personality is celebrating their birthday tomorrow, June 3rd? It's going to be tricky, but we decided y'all need to think. Of course, if you're on the East Coast and it's 10 o'clock, I'm sorry, because it's too late to think. But those of you on the West Coast, it's only 7 o'clock. You need to think. Think, think, think. Anybody? Yeah, you may not get this. We may not have a winner tonight, we decided. Somebody got really close. What silhouette pattern personality, his birthday is tomorrow, June 3rd? I'm not giving it away. Because on this one we decided if no one got it, no one got it. We only will give 1 minute. We'll give 1 minute. They're getting close. You guys. Nah. Is it time? Oh my gosh, somebody got it. What silhouette pattern personality is celebrating their birthday tomorrow, June 3rd? And that would be our dog, George. George will be 13 years old tomorrow, June 3rd. And George is on the front. If you look at the little Triniton up in New York City on the front of George's shirt, pattern number 6012, 6012, you will see George. He has a fedora and sunglasses on. It took us about 8 photos to get that photo shoot just exactly right. That was the most fun photo shoot we've ever had. So George is our celebrity. And on that same cover, by the way, is also my son Benjamin, and his birthday is tomorrow also. George and Benjamin were born on the same day, so we're going to have a bang out party here at Silhouette Patterns. So happy birthday to George and happy birthday to Benjamin, and congrats Buffett Diva, and you will have a coupon code in your chat box. All right, ladies, thanks so much for being here. We will see you in 2 weeks, which will be the 16th of June. 16th of June. All right, later. Bye.